really recognized then it hit home to so many people.
I hope so. That is definitely my goal for the page is to bring a little joy and education and and validation to all of my beloved fellow early childhood education professionals all over the world.
And truly, it's actually really doing just that. So I'd love
Oh,
to
good.
know what inspired you to call the Zen and the art.
Well, back in the 1960s, I think before you were born, maybe, um, there was a book called Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. And it was a very famous book at that time. And it was all about finding Zen or a mindfulness or a presence of mind in whatever you do, whether you are fixing your motorcycle or washing dishes or chopping wood, or in our case, working with young children and families. There is a sense of spirit that can become and peace that can become involved um, when you are present with the young children in your care. And so it was a play on that title, Zen and the Art of Early Childhood Education, is a play on Zen and the art of motorcycle maintenance. But it's also I've been a student of Zen Buddhism for many, many years. And so that also spoke to me as well.
These people do, and what elements they discuss.
Well, I've been working in the early childhood profession for about 40 years, and I'm 56, so most of my life. Um, and I started in this profession when I was a teenager as a babysitter and a camp counselor because I was one of those people that was a natural with young children, just very good. It just came naturally to me. And I loved it. And I knew I wanted to make a career out of it. But and then I went and got my degrees and all of those things and started working as I've been an infant teacher, a toddler teacher, a preschool teacher, kindergarten teacher, center director. What I didn't know when I started in this field, I knew that I loved little children, but I didn't know that I would be surrounded by some of the loveliest adults, um, and that I would become a part of this community of professionals who are joyful and wise and intelligent and powerful and playful and respectful and kind. And it's been one of the greatest, joys of my life to be counted among this group of people, of early childhood professionals. Um, I think we are amazing. And I love traveling around the world and getting to meet groups of early childhood educators who always receive me warmly because that's the kind of people they are. Um, I think that one of the reasons why we don't, you were saying earlier that we don't get the attention we deserve because we're busy playing and singing. And I agree with you. But I also think that we don't get the attention we deserve because, at least in America, and I think all over the world, we are predominantly a female field. We don't have many males like me. But we live in a world where males have tend to have more power than women. And so women's lives and women's contributions to society often go unnoticed or undervalued. And so part of my commitment is to make sure that the people out there doing this work feel valued and appreciated and respected, because their contribution, science tells us that we are shaping little human beings in their first 5 years of life, more than less than their parents, but more than about anyone else, any other profession in the world. Our contribution is so important. And I want to make sure that everyone doing this very hard, exhausting work never forgets that.
Oh, thank you so much for addressing the elephant in the room. It always goes back to gender. So, in your own words, what constitutes proper care?
Um, well, first of all, I want to acknowledge what you just said and say that it is true in America too. Um, Regulations are important, but again, in a world where it tends to be so that in our field, men create the regulations, but women live them out, there is often a disconnect.
Yes.
And those regulations, they're important. They keep children safe and healthy, and I would never argue against them. But sometimes they change our priorities in ways that uh, differs with what science tells us. And so, what we know that young children need most first is relationships. They need to be in a relationship with a caring adult who helps them to feel safe and secure. And, another new word that we're using in our field just in recent years is co regulation. So, an adult who is learning how to regulate or handle her own emotions and feelings alongside a young child who gets to watch her do that and learn how to express and control or regulate their feelings as well. And together in that relationship, or through that relationship, both the adult and the child grow and blossom. And that's the foundation of care for me. Yes, it's about kindness and respect, but if your first goal is to build a relationship with young children and their families, a real loving back and forth relationship where you honestly care about each other, then everything else flows from that more easily.
Wow, thank you so much for bringing in care because I think that as like a subordinate, not as a professional.
Yep. A colleague of mine, whose name is Carol Garbodin Murray, is coming out with a new book in January called Illuminating Care: The Pedagogy and Practice of Care. And it's really it's one of the most important books I've read because it really brings care and caregivers to a place of respect in a world where, as you say, caregivers seem to be less valued than educators. And that's the opposite of what science tells us is most important in the first 5 years of life.
What's one thing you can tell us?
Oh, I can't say just one. I might have to say
Okay,
two.
yeah, go for it.
Well, first, I just want to acknowledge this awful, crazy 2020 that we are all about to leave behind us. It's been hard on every person on the planet. Um, And that said, we early educators um, have been essential workers during this time. But the world, at least in our country, has not often acknowledged the essentialness of child care workers and early educators on the lives of young children and families, and even on our economies. And so I want people to remember this past year, especially, we were faced with such difficult choices, and there was no one good choice to stay home, to go to work and provide the child care. There was no one right or wrong answer, but every early educator I knew felt torn, unsure of what was best for them and their family. So I want to be sure to thank everyone who's watching for all that you did in 2020, especially as we all moved through this horrible time together. And, in general, and as we move into a much better future together, um, be strong, be loud, be powerful about who you are in the world and what your contribution is to the world. Um, don't stop telling everybody, educate the parents, educate your bosses, educate policymakers on just how important we are. And start by feeling that for yourself and know your own value. I think there are many people in our field who come to our work um, with not a strong sense of their own worth or value. And so it starts with knowing that you are valuable and important, and that you are a gift to this world. And once you know that, then educate the rest of the world about you and about us and our profession and what we give to the children and families and societies of our world.
That's so beautiful because we do have every right to be proud of what we do.
Yes.
And we do have every right to value. I mean, we might not be valued